to,
Yep, we're on. We're recording.
okay, so for the group here, section 4, understanding the taxes and the numbers. Okay, we've created this to inspire you. We want you to see what happens when people follow through with charitable gifts of real estate. This is going to be an example of a tax outcome for, according to 3 different ways a person can liquidate their property. And so I'm just putting up this disclaimer that this is an example based on some assumptions, and that only qualified and independent tax professionals can actually determine the outcome for any taxpayer for any particular deal. I probably don't need to say that, but I have to say that in this class, okay? I want you all to know that there are 2 distinct steps in the gift cycle when it's a non-cash asset. First, there is a donation where title transfers from the donor to the nonprofit, and then there is a sale of the asset by the nonprofit to some buyer to create cash for the nonprofit. The first step is the charitable gift, which is what creates the tax deduction and all the tax benefits for the donor. The second step creates the charitable funds. And as we've already talked about, there can be a difference between the amount, the value of the charitable gift, and the outcome of the charitable funds, okay? Now, we're going to go through an example of an individual who owns a commercial property and purchased this asset 10 years ago for $800,000. And this is what the IRS makes the financial advisors do when they're calculating how taxes are paid on the sale of investment property. The first thing is that they subtract out from the original purchase price the value of the land, because the land is not depreciable. The second thing is they add in anything that the donor may have contributed by way of a capital investment to the property in the course of owning it, and the original purchase price less the land value plus the additions create what is the net depreciable asset value. In this case, $702,000. The IRS allows you to depreciate a commercial property over 39 years. In other words, take a tax deduction against your income for $18,000 every year that you own the property. In 10 years of ownership, this owner has taken $180,000 of depreciation, which, if you subtract that from 702, leaves an adjusted tax basis of $522,000. These numbers are important because the $522,000 is what the IRS says you still have invested in the property. And if you sell it for $525,000, you've got a $3,000 gain. If you sell it for $1 million, you've got a $478,000 gain. Okay, this is how the IRS works. Owners of property pay taxes based on 3 different tax categories. Their ordinary income, capital gains taxes on the sale of capital property, and they have to pay a different tax rate on the recapture of any depreciation they have taken. Okay, so the numbers in turquoise here are the numbers that we're going to be staring at in the first example that I'm going to show you. We're going to talk about an outright gift of an asset that has an appraised value of $1.2 million. No cash payment is being asked for. The charitable gift is $1.2 million, which means that whatever taxes are owed on the property when it passes as a charitable gift, all those taxes are avoided. There are no taxes that are paid. We're then going to compare that to a bargain sale where the same property worth $1.2 million, the donor has received a cash payment of $300,000, meaning that the gift portion, the charitable gift, is $900,000. And then we're going to compare those two to a conventional sale. What happens if a person has this $1.2 million property and says, I'm just going to sell it. I'm going to pay my taxes, okay? So here's what a conventional sale looks like. The property sells for $1.2 million. He's hired you as the broker. He has closing costs. All told together, let's just call it 7%. That owner has paid $84,000 of closing costs and nets $1,116,000 and pays taxes on that $1,116,000. You need to know what the adjusted tax basis is in order to know what the gain is, because you're going to be paying taxes on the gain. We said earlier that the adjusted tax basis was $522,000, meaning that this owner is going to pay taxes on $594,000 worth of gain. And it's going to be paid at two different tax rates. First of all, the recapture of the $180,000 of depreciation that the owner took over a 10-year period, and whatever's left over from the 594 is going to be taxed at a capital gain rate. We said earlier in the tax tables that the recapture rate is 33.8%, and the taxes owed on the capital gain rate is 28.8%. And so this donor is paying $180,000 in taxes and is left at the end of the day with $936,000 in his or her pocket. That's it. They're done. They walk away. There's things they can do to save on these taxes, and we're not going to go into it right now. But I guarantee you this, if this owner had gone to a nonprofit and said, I have a property worth $1.2 million, I owe nothing on it, I don't want a cash payment for it, I just want you to take it as a gift. Most nonprofits would say, thank you for your generous offer. Please go sell your property, pay your taxes, and give us the rest. And guess what? Some donors actually do that because they're not familiar with what is available to them by making a gift of the asset instead of the remaining cash. But let's assume in this case that the owner has said, okay, I will make a gift of the remaining cash, a gift of the after-tax proceeds. $936,000 is the charitable gift. Here's what it looks like at the end. There has been no cash payment to the donor in this case, but the donor does get a cash benefit from saving taxes on making a gift of $936,000. This is the value of the tax deduction, which is calculated by taking $936,000 times the taxpayer's ordinary income tax rate, which we earlier determined was 42%, which equals $393,000. The donor here has actually received a cash benefit of $393,000 by giving away $936,000. which, by the way, went to the nonprofit. And so the total cash delivered for all people involved is $1,329,000. In other words, a property that was worth $1.2 million generated cash benefits to both the donor and the nonprofit totaling $1,329,000. We call this charitable leverage, 10% more than what the $1.2 million was worth. Now, that I think is kind of meaningful, and it is why donors who have charitable intent and like to give and will give away their assets, it's why they get involved with nonprofits, because they know that their money goes further. But let's take a look at what would have happened if the nonprofit had said yes to the gift of the asset, which is what Realty Gift Fund would say. We still have a property worth $1.2 million. We have taken the gift. The gift is now not the $936,000, it's $1.2 million. We have sold the property, and by the way, that this property once again passes completely free of all the taxes that you saw in the earlier example. The property is now sold for $1.2 million. The closing costs are the same. The result is the same, $1,116,000. But guess what? There are no taxes paid. So we still have a pot at the end of the day of $1,116,000. What's the outcome look like now? There was no cash payment made to the donor, so he doesn't get that, but he does get a tax deduction based on a gift of $1.2 million times his ordinary tax rate, in this case, $504,000 to the taxpayer. The nonprofit gets $1,116,000. Those are the charitable funds. And the net result is $1,620,000. A property that's worth $1.2 million creates cash benefits to the donor and the nonprofit equaling $1,620,000. The charitable leverage is 35%. This is why Bruce Geis gets out of bed every day to accept gifts like this, because this is the result. Now, as you might expect, in the middle between an outright gift of the asset and a gift of just the cash that was left over is a bargain sale, where the same property worth $1.2 million has a $300,000 cash payment to the donor. That part is the partial cash payment, leaving a partial charitable gift of $900. The $900 is not taxed. The $300 is taxed based on 25%, which is the amount of the cash payment divided into the appraised value. $300,000 is 25% of $1.2 million. So when you sell the property for $1.2 million, you have the same closing costs. You're paying taxes on just the $300,000, the donor is. And it's based on 25% of the adjusted tax basis, which was $522,000. 25% of that is now $130,000. So the total gain is $169,000. 25% of the depreciation recapture, which was $180,000, is now $45,000. So we're paying taxes on depreciation recapture, $45,000. The remaining amount is the capital gain times the same tax rates. It's $51,000 of taxes paid. And what's the outcome here? The donor gets a check for $300,000 from Realty Gift Fund, pays taxes of $51,000, nets $249,000, makes a gift to Realty Gift Fund of $900,000 times his tax rate, $378,000. The donor has a cash benefit here of $627,000. And the nonprofit gets the $900,000 gift, less the closing costs, $816,000 in charitable funds, a property worth $1.2 million under a bargain sale creates cash benefits to the donor and the nonprofit world of $1,443,000, charitable leverage of 20%. Gang, I know that this was a lot to absorb, but I want you to just witness the outcome, the impact of charitable giving of non-cash assets. This is why Realty Gift Fund is in business, okay? That is the end of section 4. I suspect there might be a lot of glazed over eyes. Maybe you do have questions, maybe you don't, but we're actually done with the technical presentation completely, and the rest of it is going to be a lot softer. So anything that's on your mind, please ask.
Hey, Bruce, this is George.
Hello, George.
Just came through those numbers, and I got a headache, and I don't think I got even 20% of what you were saying. Very difficult to understand. So my plan is to study those numbers and look at them again and again until I understand what happened. So at this point, I have no questions.
Okay, so let me just say this, George. There are, of the 85, 90 people who have taken this class, 5 people have sat down with those numbers to really understand them because it's just who they are. You know, it's like when I make green chili stew here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, I know exactly how many carrots, potatoes, you know, I know exactly what goes into my recipe. And when my wife makes her meat sauce, which she learned from her Italian mother, she just sort of throws a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and what have you, and that's how she does it. Every person has their own approach. We have put this technical explanation in here for those people who won't feel confident until they know the DNA of a charitable gift. All the rest of us just need to feel confident in that last number. That $1.2 million created cash benefits of $1,620,000. That's all you need to know. And if you ever mention that to somebody and they say, prove it, call me. We'll prove it to them.
Yeah, thank you for that.
And I have a saying that there is knowledge on ice and ignorance on fire. And the people that work with me tend to be just like me, which is ignorance on fire, meaning we see the vision. This is big for millions of people. We've got such a passion that we may be a little ignorant about what we're doing, but we're doing something. Whereas the people that get too hung up on the numbers kind of get hung up on the numbers and don't do as much with it. So I just really want to caution you about that, because the people that are really studying the numbers, that reach out to me to ask me about the numbers and want to talk about the numbers, they're so busy talking about the numbers, they never talk to anybody else. Or they confuse the shit out of them. So I love that our saying is, do what you do best, refer the rest. Mm-hmm. Do what you do best, refer the rest. So I just refer all that stuff to Bruce. Let him do the boring number stuff.
Yeah, I think if we'd get focused on the passion and the opportunities to talk to nonprofits and connect, that's really what we need to know. And then we can just plug in with the experts on the details.
Well, you're absolutely right, Catherine. And I want to shift that just a little bit. I was thinking about this morning. I got up early. I went down to the docks here where I'm at in Tarpon Springs. And I was just thinking about how much everybody wants to talk to nonprofits. And I just want to plant the seed of, let's talk to people who are donors. Now, we think that when we talk to the nonprofits, they're just going to open up their portfolio and Rolodex of all their donors, but that's not the case. Just like Bruce was saying earlier, the donors are their biggest asset, and they're very, 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 very protective of them. And to talk to the nonprofits is going to be a long process of talking to the board and having them check our credibility and talking about it at next month's meeting. And now they got to talk to their social media people who already have a campaign for, like, it's a long process. But we all know people that know us by first name. We all know people that we could send a text in an instant. And that story that he tells about the woman that gave $25 and then ultimately gave the property that was $43, nobody would have looked at her and thought, we got to call her. But we all know her. We all do. So sure, reach out to the nonprofits, but while they're hung up in their red tape and decision making and 6 months of blah, blah, let's talk to a donor, because the people that would donate a property, when they donate it, you sell it, and we walk into that nonprofit in 45, 60 days with a check, they're going to speed up their process when you hand them a check.
You all should know that what Cammie just said is right. I often say that nonprofits drive in the right lane, the slow lane, and the donors and the estate planning professionals drive in the left lane, the fast lane. And that's just a tip for you, because there's a trade-off here. By contacting National Jewish Health, which I did years ago, I got access to 300,000 donors. But I did so at the speed that National Jewish Health operates, okay? And by making a presentation to estate planning professionals up in Denver a year ago, I got, through a financial advisor who watched the presentation, I got access to a donor who, like a week later, made a gift to us. That's the fast lane, okay? Because the financial advisors, the estate planning community, they do hold a certain magical relationship with their clients around motivating them to act, okay? And you all should know that, okay? So you might think, gee, I don't know any financial advisors or what have. Yes, you do. If you actually stop and think about it, you do. You actually do know, perhaps because you're in the real estate business, you do know some donors. And if you know even a client of yours who isn't a donor, but who sits on a board, you know, that these relationships are just 6 degrees apart from each other. And all you have to do is think about them. This is what Cammie will help you do, okay?
Well, not only,
I have a question, if I
go
may.
ahead.
Okay, so I got contacted from a buyer, just random buyer off of a property that I have listed, asking about it, blah, blah, blah. Move forward. He has a property to sell, move forward. He has only been in the property for a year, so he's going to have capital gains on it. And my next comment, he's like, am I going to have to pay capital gains? I said, yes, and maybe. You also could potentially donate that capital gains to your nonprofit of your choice, right? And then I have a couple on this call today.
You can donate the property to the nonprofit of your choice, not the capital gains, okay? You can donate the property. You know, there is a trade-off. I want you to know that one of the things that you should have come away with when I gave you those 3 math examples, those tedious math examples we just went through, the conventional sale, that owner ended up with $936,000. He could have said no to the nonprofit and taken his wife to Paris for 5 years, right? Just want you to know that there's a lot of benefit to somebody just selling their property, paying their taxes, and doing what they do. If they're leading with charitable intent, if philanthropy is part of their legacy and part of their strategy, Giving their assets is a whole lot smarter than giving their cash. Giving their cash actually is known in the nonprofit world as the dumbest gift you can make, but the one that they actually take the most of. But they know that they're not helping their donor. I love that thing that Cammie came up with. Save a nonprofit, help a donor. That's what you're actually trying to do, is help your donors.
I heard you giggle and I thought, boy, if that caught Bruce's attention, I might be on to something.
I love that. I love a catchy phrase like that.
Let me just read through the questions. Tisha, if you had another expanding on that, feel free. I'm just going to read these questions.
Well, so where I was going with that was, you know, it brings up an opportunity. If somebody talks capital gains, I want to be able to throw in there that there's another option for them, right? He actually worked for a company that is very much involved in the community and nonprofit. It doesn't work for a nonprofit, but anyway, it brings up the opportunity to talk about it, right? And then I don't know what his portfolio looks like. I don't know what kind of tax benefit he needs to get for this year. That's for his CPA and him and maybe you to discuss with that. I just want to bring opportunities when I see them. If I hear capital gains, I think Bruce.
Well, and Tisha, when you have the opportunity to bring it up, remember, it may not be his property. He may actually own 28 properties you don't know about that it could work for. His father might have a property. It might be that you say it to him now and he doesn't donate a property for 3 more years, but guess what? You're going to be in business that long. So this is about being able to drop it without any, preconceived notion that something has to happen and that it has to be that person and that property that's donated. Bruce, there's a woman in our group that was talking about this property and talking about this property. She's a real estate agent. She'd seen it in her neighborhood, been for sale 3 different times. She wanted to call the property owner, but she didn't have the gumption, so she never did. Bruce called him. And after Bruce called him and called him and called him, he finally got on the phone with the guy. And the moral of the story is the guy was like, who are you? Why are you calling me? And after Bruce explained it, that particular property was not qualified, but he said, I do have another property that might qualify. So it's about opening the door.
That happens all the time, by the way.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. The first conversation I have with a donor, frequently, gee, I don't think this property is going to work because I've got 5 other owners with me and they don't share the same goals that I do. Remember, the first thing we're trying to do is get back to their goals. If there's a shopping center or an office building owned by 6 different partners and 4 of them are youngish and 2 of them are oldish, and they have completely different motivations, right? But it might be another property in that person's portfolio that actually works perfectly.
Let me address a couple of the comments over here. Becky says, as nonprofit, we need to know how to tell the story. We need to keep it simple, clear, and set the hook. Absolutely. We all have to get out of the mindset of selling people something, convincing them, persuading. There's so much information and education here. And when you share a story, when you're talking to your donors, you've got a donor that's donated $500 a year for 10 years. You can simply say to that person, Bill, I heard a story about a donor just like you that was able to actually give us a check for over $600,000 with no cash out of pocket. It was fascinating. You just tell the story. And when he says, really, how did that happen? What do you mean? Tell me more. Well, now he's interested and now you can tell him more. But yes, you're just setting the hook. But the other thing I want to address is Mary Jane says, so wait, we could do this without the nonprofits buy-in first. Yes, that's why I'm saying, please don't be so focused on going out and talking to nonprofit after nonprofit after nonprofit unless you just want to be caught up in the red tape of them making decisions. The fact is, you, MJ, know people who would love to donate property, and when they do, They'll give the money. It could be 10 nonprofits that get a check that didn't even know that they were going to get a check. Bruce tells stories all the time about how awesome it is to walk into a nonprofit with a check for $32,000, hand it to them, and have them start crying and pass out, not knowing they were going to get that check. So because the nonprofit has nothing to do with the transaction, they don't even need to know the address. A good way to get their attention is to actually give them a check. And when you, as a real estate person or any kind of business, when you let your clients know that you're a charitable real estate specialist, just letting you know, another tool in my arsenal is that I can help you and anyone you know leave legacy with the nonprofits you love. Just telling you, just letting you know. When that person says, you know, I tried to donate a property to my veterans group last year and they said they couldn't take it. One thing leads to another. 6 months from now, not only are you giving the veterans a check for $300,000, but those 10,000 veterans that go to the Wounded Warrior conferences and ride in Rolling Thunder, etc., now they know you. Now you've been introduced as the realtor who can help their groups get big checks. So that's why I'm saying always spin this. And who do I want to get in front of? Who do I want to talk to?
Who else has a question? I got all kinds of things I can tell you, but who has a question?
Bruce, what should we be asking? What would you like to share?
Well, you know, in the fundraising world, and I've spent a lot of time, this topic for the four of us came up 20 years ago, just so you know. That problem we put on the table and said, who can solve this one? We've been dealing with this for 20 years. And so I've talked to a lot of nonprofits about this. One thing that the best fundraisers in America will do is they'll be sitting down with a major donor. And by the way, let's be clear on this. A gift of real estate is a major gift. So when I have a relationship with, and this might be something you want to remember, when I make a call to a nonprofit, cold call, I'm asking for the major gifts officer, or I'm asking for the planned giving officer, or I'm asking for the head of development, those three people, because they understand major giving. And one of the things they understand about major giving is when they have a loyal major donor in their sitting at their desk or at their kitchen table, and they're talking about, you know, I've decided I'm going to write you a check for $20,000. There's numerous ways the fundraiser can respond to that, but here are two of them. One is, I assume you mean $20,000 each year for the next 5 years. Okay, that's every good fundraiser will do that. Okay. The next thing is they'll say, you know, Bob's the donor. You know, Bob, I know somebody just like you. This is what Cammie said earlier. I know somebody just like you. Here's what he did. Here's what she did. This is always a great way of turning a donor into another way of seeing things. I know somebody just like you. They have the same number of kids. They're at the same point of retirement. They have the same loyalty that you do to our organization. Here is what they did. Really, really effective way of getting a conversation started about a gift of an asset instead of a gift of cash. Because instead of $20,000, or even being cute, $20,000 a year for 5 years, 100 grand, you might get something that's worth 400, 500,000 by saying, here's what somebody just like you did. That's always a good way to do it. Colorado Public Radio has on their website, if you go to coloradopublicradio.org, their opening phrase, when you get to the button that says support us, and then you get to real estate and you pop that open, their opening line is, over the years, many of our donors have asked if we would accept a gift of real estate. Period. We've always said no. Period. Now we can say yes. What does that do? It tells them that they can accept a gift of real estate, but it tells the people looking at it, lots of smart donors have been asking, can we please give our assets instead of our cash? Oh, gee, smart donors must be doing that. Honey, do we have any of that? You know, that is a way of putting the topic on the table in a backhanded way. Over the years, many of our donors have asked if they can give us gifts of real estate. Very, very clever way of saying it, right? You know, it does pay off to think about it a little bit when you make your first call. Like Cammie says, you know, who are you calling? Who are you calling? What do you want to talk about? And have a story at your fingertips. You know, let me just tell you I'm going to tell you a quick story right now. There's two I have in mind. One is about a nonprofit. The MS Society last year received a bequest from a gentleman who passed away in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The MS Society called us and asked us if we would take an assignment of the bequest. So we created a three-party agreement between the MS Society, the estate, and Realty Gift Fund, where we accepted the assignment of the bequest. We actually accepted the bequest on behalf of the MS Society, which we then positioned for the market. It was a horrible, horrible property, okay? Just so you know. But it did have value. And at the end of the day, we created $152,000. We created a check for the MS Society, $152,500. And it took us a while to do it, but we got it done. So the importance there is that nonprofits are left bequests frequently. And there are two things they should ask when that happens. Should we accept it or not? The Catholic Church across America has accepted more properties as bequests it should have said no to than properties, you know, that I will ever transact in my entire lifetime, okay? Should we accept it or not? And if we accept it, should we assign the bequest to somebody who does it better than we do, which is Realty Gift Fund? Because all they're doing is taking a small piece of the gift for the work that they do. And, you know, like Cammie says, we can just like go to sleep right now. And someday that check will show up. So we did that for the MS Society. Another little story I'd like to tell you, just so you know how this works. A gentleman who grew up in his vocation, he was a real estate guy. He worked in the corporate world. It was a totally different assignment than what you all have. You know, he was leasing properties for the company and getting out of leases and remodeling and expanding space, and all the internal operations of a large corporation and their real estate portfolio. He retires, he moves to Colorado, he buys 7 homes in the Fort Collins market, which is where Colorado State University is, and he leases these homes to students. And in his retirement years, he got very active in the conservation community. That was his passion. He heard me make a presentation He said, I want to make, and this is an important element to this story, I want to make a gift of my real estate to Realty Gift Fund that's going to benefit the conservation community, all those board members who heard you present to them, but need to see a live example of how it works. And so we did this together. It was a conspiracy that he wanted to make a gift of real estate to show his nonprofits how it works. And we did that. $360,000 home, $133,000 mortgage, which we paid off. We had to remediate mold. We had to mitigate the radon reading, which was, I've said before, the highest radon reading. I've done a lot of radon readings off the charts, but we had to fix that. It was leased, so it was not being sold to a user, it was being sold to an investor. And so there were investment underwriting criteria and all that, which we're very used to. We got through that, we sold the property, we created $182,000 for the nonprofit world. And he decided he wanted to give it to 5 different nonprofits. So, 20%, 15%, 30%, blah, blah, blah. The largest check was to a group like Cammie said. They didn't even know what was going on. We wrote them a check for $85,000. They went, really? Where did this come from? The donor was making a statement. Wake up, people. This is what happens when you say yes to gifts of real estate. So, short story.
MJ made a comment in the chat. She said, charitable intention is where it's at in New York City. And I just want to expand upon that. Charitable intention is where it's at when it comes to attracting 87% of your marketplace. Because 87% of consumers will choose the company, the product, or the service provider that is socially responsible. Who on here, if you had the choice of 2 attorneys, 2 dog walkers, 2 hairstylists, and you knew that one of them was socially responsible and helping the animals and the kids and stopping human traffic, that you'd hire that person? Yes or no? So the thing is, charitable intention is where it's at if you are a savvy, visionary, forward-thinking professional who wants to not only do the right thing, but make money making a difference. Just saying. So guys, it is 2:53 Eastern time. I want to respect your time. As we have said, this really is the end of the material. Having said that, we're going to get into some fun now. I sent over what's called section 6, which gets into who to talk to, what to say, and how to say it. I want to give you the opportunity to bow out respectfully. If you have something else that you need to get on to, make sure that you have your contact information. I will be sharing the chat with everyone, which has all the comments, etc. Does anybody need to leave? Or are you ready to rock and roll with some mind expansion and some role play?
Catherine?
Say something, Catherine?
I'm just going to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I thought that's what that meant. I'm getting good at sign language.
Bruce, you going to hang out with us? You taking off?
I'm going to hang out with you for a second because I want anybody who thinks of something at the last minute to be able to ask it.
Okay.
But then I'm going to switch offices because I'm at my home office now, and I'm going to go to my office because you and I have a call in an hour.
We do.
Right.
We have a very important call in an hour, and I'll see you there. I just wanted to give us a chance to say bye.
And that's
And
in your Zoom room, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to say thank you to all the people who are still with us and all the people who joined up earlier, who aren't here. I mean, believe me, I have the best job on the planet doing what we do. And we're just going to do so much more of it if we have you all helping us. I am, you know, I'm honored to be here with this group.
Well, as I have insinuated in the comments many times, I interviewed 5 that kind of, sort of, kind of can do kind of, sort of what Realty Gift Fund's doing, but not really. And I've made lots of comments about why they are my chosen vendor, partner, friends, and we'll be funding the nonprofits by the billions for years to come. All right, let me share my screen and start talking about the meat of the matter. And I'm sharing my screen because I want to talk about the mindset of this more than anything right now, because everybody wants to know. And even though charitable real estate is something that I only learned about a year and a half ago, I've been teaching real estate agents, for-profit, nonprofit, for many years, how to recruit, how to invite to meetings. I was in network marketing. I built teams, et cetera, et cetera. I've helped people to learn how to handle objections and make phone calls and prospect and all that stuff. And the main question is always, what do I say? What do I say? What do I say? And I want to help take a step back to think about, well, it's not what I say, it's really who I'm being and how I say it. But even more than that, well, that depends. What you say is going to be very different depending on what your purpose is and who you're talking to. So for example, if you were to say, hey, Cammie, I'm going to ask somebody on a date, what would I say? Well, I don't know if you're asking out a man or a woman. Are you at a bar? Are you on an online dating platform? Is this a friend? Do you know them? Have you been introduced? Like, there's so much to be said before you just say, well, here's how you ask somebody out. It's the same thing here. What do I say? Well, it depends. So when we talk about what to say, I'm going to tell you in a minute about the 7 Ps that we go through in the group and in the cause marketing campaigns and things like that, your purpose, their purpose. But let's talk about why. Why is MJ reaching out to this big nonprofit? Why would the nonprofits that are on here want to talk to their donors? Why would you as a real estate agent want to make a Facebook post or send an email? You know, are you wanting more listings? Like, do you just want to build your business? Because there's people here that just want to build their business. And as long as they're not sharky and scammers and taking advantage of people, we can teach them how to build their business. Are you wanting to have that unique sales proposition that gives you that higher level as an advisor? The thing that when you're on those Zooms with 50 people and there's 10 other realtors on there, but you want to stand out. And listen, for you nonprofits, you need to stand out too, because nonprofits are very competitive. And if there's a donor out there and you're wanting to get their attention, it would be good for you to have a way to help them leave legacy that other nonprofits can't. You know, do you want to build a team? Some of the people on here want to get real estate agents from all over the country, whether it's an EXP or Keller Williams agent, whether you want to recruit right in your own backyard. I'm the recruiting queen. You want to bring in 5, 10, 20 agents in your marketplace, right where you're at, or 100 of them around the country. We can talk about that too. Do you want to add more high net worth people? That's why I ask people, who do you want to do business with? Well, you can do business with anyone and everyone, but that doesn't mean you should. You know, if you're going to put your effort into learning how this works and what to say to people, well, gosh, now you can pick and choose who you want to be talking to, including, do you want to start going to those clubs that you normally couldn't get your foot in? Think about those high net worth clubs. And when I say club, I mean groups or physical place. Maybe there's that realtor in your area who's always gotten the $1 million listings and always listed the lakefront property, et cetera. and you think you could never do anything about that, you can now. Is there a specific nonprofit that you want to help? Do you want to, is it your church that you want to help? Because how you talk to your church and the other donors and people in the church that you already know is very, very different than MJ reaching out to this huge nonprofit where she doesn't necessarily know anyone. So what we say, how we say it, all depends on why we are saying it. So we talked about the 4 S's, telling a story, and it bears repeating, because I want you to notice how when Bruce would tell a story, I was watching you guys during that last one. I could see how when he said, let me tell you another story, like your body language shifted, like, ooh, another story. I want to hear this. You kind of lean in a little bit. I want to hear a story. But when it was all of the numbers, oh gosh, I only got 20% of that. It's overwhelming. My brain hurts. Yeah, guess what? So does everybody else's. And when we start getting into technobabble and jargon and getting into the details that people don't understand, you are doing them a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice, and they're not going to do anything with you. And you just lost the chance to give millions of dollars to that nonprofit or to help that donor to leave a big legacy. So story is so important. And to the point that MJ made earlier, well, do I send an email? Do I call them? What do I do? What do I do? Well, I'm just going to put this out there, that sending an email is better than doing nothing. In other words, at least typing, at least we're doing something. But think about your own experience with other human beings. A voice conversation where you hear their excitement, their passion, your passion. Voice is better than typing. And look, nothing beats face to face. In the group, I talk about and teach how to send video messages, whether it's a Facebook private message to someone. You want somebody to take action, stop sending typed messages and start sending a personal voice message or video message. Guys, this is proof. You know, half the people on the call today talked about how it was from an interaction that they had with me. And these are all things that I've leveraged as unique sales propositions to speak and build relationship and rapport with every one of you. And that's why you're on here. And that's how you can get other people to want to partner and promote and play with you. So the first and best option is to tell a story. Anytime you can do it face-to-face on video, that's better than anything else. It depends on the situation. Is it a cold lead? Is it somebody that you've known since high school? And let's talk about the 7 P's for just a minute. And then I want to really open it up to, okay, Cammie, here's a specific person in a specific situation. What do I say? Because then we can start, once there's a little bit of groundwork and foundation and background on what I'm trying to explain here, now we can have an intelligent conversation. So when we go through the 7 P's, what is your purpose, like we just talked about? So if you want to role play with me, if you want to talk to me about, here's a specific person, etc., here's what I need to know. What is your purpose for talking to those people? So even for MJ reaching out to that group that she talked about, why? What is your purpose? I mean, are you just willy-nilly wanting to educate people? Well, that's sweet, but we can also put like we can set intention, pay attention, create retention of the resources, relationships, and revenue. In other words, let's set an intention about why we're reaching out to those people. The second P is their purpose. What's in it for them? What are you speaking to that's important to them? So for example, if you're talking to a potential property donor and you know that that guy is a veteran, he's been helping veteran groups for 20 years, he drives a Harley and the Rolling Thunder, and he's all about that, well, then his purpose and the conversation you're going to have with him is very different than maybe that woman who buys and sells and flips properties all the time, and you know she's a number woman, and you know she wants to not pay capital gains, and you know she's all about, you know, saving money on taxes. Well, they're both donors, but they're both very different purposes and reasons to have a conversation with them. The third P is about your presence, your inner feeling about this conversation. Like Bruce was saying, you're on this training to build confidence, not to be able to explain this, not to become an expert at how the taxes go down, but to really build your inner confidence so that you're sold out on how this works from the perspective of, ooh, there's millions of dollars that can go to nonprofits. Ooh, I can be the go-to person in the area. Ooh, my nonprofit doesn't have to struggle anymore. So if your inner presence, your inner feelings are completely rock solid like mine are, then the fourth P is your positioning. How are you showing up in your body language, in your tonality, in how you introduce yourself when you're having conversations on Zoom and your social media and all that sort of thing? Because once we're positioned, then we can partner. We can't start talking to people about partnering with us because we know that just like you guys, you all Googled me. And now that you know Realty Gift Fund, you're Googling them. We're a Googling society. We're checking people out. We're creeping on them. We're gonna and people are gonna check you out before they decide if they want to partner with you. And the reason we want to get partners is because we need to start promoting. People need to know what we're doing, not what we do. Everybody knows a realtor. Everybody knows a nonprofit. Big deal. What are you doing in the world that gets people to really buy into you and what you're doing, which all leads to the last P, which is the payoff. And the payoff is, what kind of influence do you want to have in the world? What kind of an impact are you wanting to have? What kind of income do you want to create? And how do you want to be inspired and inspire others and be inspiring and all that fun stuff? Because if we reverse engineer that and we want that kind of a payoff, then we need to start promoting, not what we do, but what we're doing. And if we're going to start promoting, then let's promote with partners. And we can't look for partners unless we're positioned knowing that they're going to be Googling and creeping on us. So with that foundation, if you will, in mind, love to actually get into some, all right, that's all great, Cammie. What do I say? So give me one that we can actually work through so that when you get off this Zoom, you can actually have an impact in the world by not confusing the shit out of somebody, but by inspiring them to take action. Who's up? Go ahead, Catherine.
So this is a little one, but it's the only one I can think of. I know of these two condo units that are side by side, main floor of a building. Neither one are worth very much money. And each were owned by a sister. I think that means they're sisters of each other. And they moved out of them a long time ago. They've been sitting vacant forever. And you know what happens to vacant properties? Like, ugh. And their plan is to give these condo units to the Catholic Church when they die. Well, they have been paying the condo fees forever and ever, and they're totally upside down in the donation that they could have given, and it's just continuing to cost them, and they could maybe donate those to the Catholic Church now rather than continue to pay on these empty properties that are just costing them monthly dues.
So you know them personally? I take it you know a lot about them.
No, I did a television show on the building, and I was just intrigued by these units, and I did write an offer on one of them and they wouldn't budge, but I know the listing agent. So anyway, that was one thing that came to mind.
Well, so now here's a little piece of information at the very end. If they're waiting until they die to leave them to the Catholic Church, why are they listed?
Good frickin' point. Well, I'll tell you why, because they have a stupid price on each of these units that they're never going to get. Like, they're not even receptive to offers. But yeah, that's so true.
Okay, so do you see how you, kind of like how Bruce said, what was the question I should have asked in the beginning before we spend two? Because I could look, if they weren't listed, I could go on and on telling you how to reach out to them, how to, if you don't know them, send them a message. Hey, I was just in a Zoom where I learned about some properties and some women just like you. That's good. You want people to relate, who had property that they were going to leave to their church, and they were able to leave twice as much by
That's-
just doing it now as opposed to waiting until they die. We need to talk, kind of a conversation.
Yeah.
But you're a real estate agent.
Mhm.
And if these ladies have their condos listed with another realtor, there's nothing for you to talk about because that's again against ethical code when they're already listed with another agent.
Yeah, so if they weren't listed, I just wondered, what would you say that would inspire them to get off the fence and keep waiting till they die? I talk to seniors all the time and they'll just say, I don't know why I'm still here. It's sad that, anyway.
Well, but see, here's the thing. They're not on the fence. They have it on the market. If they were on the fence, they wouldn't be on the market. So that's a little bit different. I really want to talk about one right now that we could actually go out and take some action on, because you can't do anything with that. And, there's another woman in our group that I was talking about earlier. There's this property that she's seen for sale for many years. It's still on the market with another agent. And she kept harping on it. Maybe this is one. And then she didn't have the balls to call the client, and it was listed. So in all fairness, she shouldn't be calling them. She should call the realtor. And she just had this whole story about it. And Bruce ended up calling him. But my point is, why do we get hung up on something that, it's like being in love with the man that's already married? Why are we wasting our time romancing that? Let's find a guy that's single and emotionally available and straight and interested in you or me, right? Let's find somebody that's qualified. So give me an example of something else that's going on. And if you need to think about it for a minute, that's okay too. But I really want to encourage you guys. We've got a call sheet that I could have sent over to. It's just a piece of paper where you write down people's names and numbers just to be thinking of people to call. But every one of you know at least 100, but I'm going to make this real simple. Who are 3 people that you know that you've done business with, that trust you, that respect you, people that you like, people that you'd like more of them to be your clients or your donors or whatever? Those are the people you need to be reaching out to, because there's already trust and respect there. And hopefully you already want to be a benefit to them. You already want to help them. You want to help them as a nonprofit to make money. You want to help them as a donor to leave legacy and be celebrated and feel good about what they're doing and save money on their taxes. You already love them as a realtor on the other side of the country that you know would be a great referral partner. So who are some people that you know?
So, different side of this, but I just had to leave to drop off my son. So I'm really glad I came back and you guys are still chatting. So I'm not sure what I missed, but while I was in the car, I called my title agent. My title agent and I have been doing business together well, I sold her grandparents' house. So obviously she knows, likes, and respects me. On top of that, she is the regional president of Big Brothers and Big Sisters in our area. So I just called her and I was like, hey, has anybody ever offered to donate real estate to you guys at Big Brothers and Big Sisters? I won't use her exact language, but she was like, yeah, no. And so we started to talk about this just a bit. And I said, look, I'm sitting in my first meeting. I don't know a ton. I said, but this is what I'm hearing. And I told her actually both of the stories, the one about the guy in Colorado and the lady in Lake Harmony. And the biggest thing that I was like saying, because of her background in real estate, obviously she understands a lot more than just anybody off the street. So I said, like, what would you do? if somebody offered to give you a house? And she's like, well, we would probably either try to sell it or use it. And I'm like, and what if this? And then, so we started talking through and she's like, yeah, that would be, we'd maybe get a grant, like to pay for repairs and stuff like that. And I said, well, what if somebody did all that for you? And she's like, yeah, like like, in all honesty, she said, I said, do you have any big ticket donors? She said, in all honesty, once in a while, not even once a year, we get maybe somebody that'll donate $100,000. But the vast majority are like this $25 a year lady.
So let me ask you this. You said at the beginning, when you brought up real estate to her, she was like, yeah, no. Does that mean, yeah, we've heard of that and there's no way we're going to do it? Or no, I've just never heard of it?
No, nobody's ever offered it. Now she's only been the president for, I think, 2 years, but she's been involved with them for a while, but they've never even pursued looking for it.
So I'm going to stay on the dating example just because I'm single and that's most convenient for me to talk about. If you were to come up to me and say, hey, Cammie, if a guy had been divorced 3 times and had filed bankruptcy, would you go out with him?
Please
Like,
say no.
Well, so if that was your opening line, I'd be like, yeah, no. And then you start saying, well, yeah, but what you don't know is that was 30 years ago. Now he's a billionaire and he's philanthropic and he has the world's largest, foundation for children, and he's gorgeous and he's sober and he's emotionally available. And here's his picture.
I don't think he's really wouldn't still be single. Sorry.
My point is, you started off with something that is like leading them down the path of confusion. No, that would be a, no, right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, in this example, and all true honesty around it, this is a real guy. And you said all those beautiful things to me about him. And then you said, he's a really dear friend of mine and he always wants me to give full disclosure. He has been divorced 3 times and he has had a bankruptcy. I'd be like, well, yeah, but that was 30 years ago. I'd be defending him. Do you understand the correlation I'm making here?
Yeah.
So we want to start out our conversation with something that's appealing, that's emotionally like, oh yeah, not, yeah, no.
She wasn't like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. She was like, yeah, no, we wish. Like nobody's ever, but that doesn't happen. How can we make that happen?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you went down a road with her. Well, what would you do? And she's like, well, I would get a grant and we would do this. There was a lot of stuff that didn't need to be said.
Gotcha.
And if you're going to be talking to a lot of people and you're having that long of a conversation about what they would do if they got, it's not time efficient. And you want to tell a story about what you heard. So in this case, what's her first name, just for conversation?
Rachel,
girl, I'm on a Zoom right now where they're talking about nonprofits just like Big Brothers and Big Sisters that are getting checks $152,000, $800,000, $187,000. No new donor, no fundraiser. Now notice what I did. What I did was story, shut my mouth. Because when I shut up, now she's going to say, what do you mean? What's the name of this group? How does that work? Tell me more. Can we get those checks?
She does want to talk to you. We do want to set something up, but
that's because, so great point. You know why? Because you know her.
Yeah, because it came from me.
She trust you. If any one of you were to reach out to a nonprofit cold with an email or a Facebook message or a phone call, hey, listen, I'm just curious. You ever gotten a piece of real estate? They'd be like, yeah, we got one of those before and we're not interested.
Yeah, I obviously approached her differently than I would approach anybody else. But when I texted her before I talked to her was, hey there, do you guys accept charitable, asked her big brothers and big sisters, accept charitable contributions of real estate? And her response was, oh my God, what? And I said, I'm in a webinar learning about how this gets done right now. It's really interesting. And she said, call me when you're off. So that was what prompted the phone call.
Sure. So this is a great recording for training purposes, because the reason it turned around and went well for you is because you know her,
Yes.
you've done business with her, and she trusts you. So for everybody that's on now and listening later, like I said, who are the 3 people that you know that like you and trust you? That would not work with a cold call. And the thing is, when you say story, and you get quiet and they start asking you questions, there's a whole different mindset around them asking you to tell them more, as opposed to us cramming it down their throat. And you'll have both experiences. We all do. I still do, right? I'm so passionate about it. I can get on a high horse and be like, well, yeah, but what would you do with $550,000? And we can help you. And, when I get in this desperate kind of selling mode, because I'm so passionate about it. And when we have both experiences, we really understand, oh, okay, when they start asking me, because that's what she did. She said, call me, we need to talk. But if it was a cold call, they wouldn't have.
No, she wouldn't have. And the question that she left me with, well, we left it with 2 things. 1, I was going to get with you and see if we could set up a conversation. And 2, and the question that I had 0 answer to is, what's the negative? What's the catch? And I said, look, I'm just brand new. I'm literally like an hour and a half into a webinar. I'm not hearing a catch. I'm not hearing a negative for you as a nonprofit.
Thank you for calling out the big pink elephant in the room. Because as a society, you even said it when I was talking about the example with the date. If he's that great, what's wrong with him? That's our mindset.
Yeah.
Nothing. If it's too good to be true, it must be. What's the catch? If it's so great, why isn't someone else doing it? Never mind. I'll just go back to what we've always done, even though it's broken and it doesn't work and our fundraisers are getting canceled and people don't have the cash they used to. So that's why when one of you asked earlier, how does Realty Gift Fund get paid? That's why I very specifically told you, look, Realty Gift Fund gets anywhere from 3 to 10% of the proceeds. But there are other groups that keep 30% no matter what. There's a group that keeps 85%. There are groups that I talked to who wanted me to work with them and would give me a percentage of what they brought in, but they wanted me to go find all the real estate for their nonprofit. See, we give it to any of the 1.3 million. We don't, as long as it's a legitimate 501c3, we'll give it to them. So we need to know that people are going to feel that way, especially when we start off with something that's kind of controversial, like, do you accept real estate? Because a lot of nonprofits are going to say, we had one and it was a nightmare. And then once they tell you their story for 10 minutes, it doesn't matter what you say, you're never going to be able to clean it up and get back to the good part.
But it sounds like what we do as a group is take all that bullshit and heartache and drama and all that out of it. You're just handing them a check once all that ugly crap is taken care of.
And that is why, even though you have just gotten so inspired and you've spent 4.5 hours with us and you believe that now, if you're not part of the group, it's just like anything else. You know, an alcoholic goes to an AA meeting and they're going to go out and save the world. There is no downside to AA. You don't drink anymore and you can hang around with people that don't drink and your life's better. But the minute they go out and start telling people about AA, Before you know it, they're sitting on the bar stool drinking again because they're not staying in the conversation. So when you stay in the conversation with us, you find out that is really the way it is. Realty Gift Fund keeps 10%. Cami gets paid to train you guys. Real estate agents gets a full commission. Nonprofits get 90 or more % of the proceeds. And the donor gets the benefit of taxes, blah, blah, blah. But people are so fucking jaded.
Yeah.
But that the minute you talk about how great a guy is, there's something wrong with him.
Makes sense.
So that's why you want to start off with the good qualities, and they're all good qualities, but I'm saying don't start off with something that could create controversy. What do you think about real estate? Have you ever taken real estate before? If you could get real estate, what would you do with it? You can do that, but tell them a story first so that now their mind is open enough to hear what you're saying.
Got it.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'd really love to have you in the group.
And actually, I learned a lot even from my silly story, Cami, and also from Ingrid's. Just really, just any conversation about this, you just learned so much. And now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I know. I think Ingrid's person also, because she's got, has that real estate background, she's more open, and obviously she's a more curious person than probably a lot of people that we'd run into that would immediately throw up a roadblock. And a lot of people, like Bruce was kind of alluding to, that drive in the slow lane of being in the bureaucracy and the red tape of nonprofits and government agencies, they're not creative enough and curious enough to, really explore. So I can see why the storytelling is so important. But we can make such heroes out of these people. There's such a big turnaround or turnover in a lot of these organizations. And if you can help somebody be, just a crack shot fundraiser because they're going after big money, it's really, you could be making a huge difference in their career and in their life.
Well, not only that, but let me spin your head around a little bit about her. Does she own the title company?
Yes,
Yeah,
she does. And she did mortgage before that. We've been, obviously we're not business partners because I'm a realtor and she's title, but she's been doing my title for probably 15 years. She does my conveyancing. Like when I switched to different real estate company, I talked to her about it. Like she's my inside outside person. So whether she was with big brothers or big sisters or not, I probably would have had this conversation with her anyway.
well, you would have anyway, because you're going to continue to hear us say, Bruce will say all the time, the two professions that are the most important for the transaction are the real estate agent and the title company.
Yeah.
Because the title, so on the surface, because of the transaction, the title company is important. And I don't know how the whole back-to-back closing thing works, how they take title, then they list it with you. And then when they get the end user, when they come to the closing table, there's actually a back-to-back closing from the first transaction.
Like an A to B, B to C.
Yes.
Okay.
And my point is that they need to have a good title company that can help keep that all clean and clear. But the reason that I would tell you to call the title company is because who else in your town can do a property search background like that?
Exactly.
Who else do you know that can give you a list of 1,000 people in your area that have 50% or more equity? Who else do you know that is doing 1,000 closings a year and knows who in town is buying and flipping and generous, and on every one of their settlement statements, they give $5,000 to the Boys and Girls Club. In other words, the title company can be such a plethora of donors, including the fact that the title company owners, usually like a nonprofit, they have a staff. How many people does she have working with her? Every one of them. She likes veterans. That one wants to help the homeless. This one over here is volunteering at the soup kitchen all the time. That one loves Jesus. That one loves Buddha. And every one of them wants to do something good in the world. And when they find out that you are the real estate agent that can help Buddha and Jesus and homeless and cats and dogs and kids, guess who they start giving all their business to, whether it's a donation or not?
Yeah. Makes sense.
So this is what I'm talking about with leveraging this. See, Bruce and Realty Gift Fund are all about doing the donations, and me too. I want to give $1 billion to nonprofits worldwide by 2025. And then $1 billion a year after that, soon to be adding several billion a year just from our group. Do the math on the commissions with that. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Now that you know what charitable real estate is, how can I get in front of my ideal clients? Who are my ideal clients? How can I start talking to those high net worth people? It is interesting. She does have 12 people in her staff, and that one's always volunteering, and this one's always sending me a GoFundMe account. Wow, she and I have a great relationship. Not only could she put me in front of Boys and Girls Club, wow, I could do 100 listings a year just from her because I'm doing this.
Cami,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I have a question for you. I get a chance, well, now I am in Oregon, but I worked in Colorado for many years. Every now and then I get a chance to talk to people that have multiple properties, and I'm sure they would like to donate, and they have, there are places where they want to put the money. What's your opening line to people that have the potential to donate land or commercial property?
Great question, because first of all, everybody has the potential to donate. We want to not pre-qualify anybody or prejudge or eliminate people. Remember the woman, $25
That's
a
true.
year. Okay, so that's first. Second of all, when we talk about those P's, right? So my first question to you would be, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions and then have you answer. What is your purpose? Meaning, you said you worked in Colorado, now you're in Oregon. So are we looking to send referrals to people in Oregon of all these people that we used to know? Are we wanting to build referral agents and a team? Are we wanting to get listings? And what is the purpose of the people we're talking to? So in other words, are they people that you personally know? Is there a list of property owners like this title company could get a list of 1,000 people she doesn't know, but she could send an email to or something? Are they people that are already supporting nonprofits and you know that, or are they people that would like to avoid the 1031 tax exchange train? And now they're going to hit a wall with those capital gains now that they've transferred and transferred. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So everybody wants to know what to say, but I have to take it back and say, well, wait a minute. Did you meet him in a bar? Is this online? Do you know him personally? So help me with that. Give me a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, let me give you a specific example. I do know commercial owners, and I have worked with them. They know me. They probably trust me. So if I want to speak with them and tell them, there is a chance that you can actually donate one of your properties to avoid those taxes that you have been trying to avoid all along.
Perfect.
So if that is the scenario, what would you say to them?
Because what your words were, hey, what if you could donate a property right immediately? That person just shut down. Before you even said save taxes, think about it. We have like 3 seconds to really get somebody's attention.
Mm-hmm.
So this is perfect. Thank you for being open and vulnerable to talk about it. So if there's someone that they're a commercial property owner, once again, if you know them, then you may know, is that person always doing things for the homeless? Are they very religious and go to church a lot? Like, you would know that. And if you're going to reach out to them, we call it in the group, research, reach out, relationship build. Take a look. So if you're getting ready to call John Smith, you know him, and you're getting ready to call him or send him a message, research a little bit. If you look on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can see, oh, he's the director of fundraising at the Boys and Girls Club. Mm-hmm. Oh, I see a picture of him with 14 dogs at his house, right? So if you learn a little bit about him, Is he more altruistic and heart-centered, or is he money hungry and wants to save on those taxes? So when we know that, and right now we're talking about talking to people that we know, those top three. This isn't about sending an email blast to 500 people yet, although we can talk about that too. But now, if you were to say to me, he's done 1031 tax exchanges, he's very savvy, he's into a place where he wants to do estate planning, etc., then I might say to him, hey, John, I just sat in a class where I heard about a guy just like you that had property just like yours, no capital gains tax, completely eliminated it.
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah, that's a good, yeah.
now story focused on his purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Shut up. And he says, what do you mean? Never heard of it. Tell me more. Or George, and this is so important, he might say, well, good for that guy. How are things going up in Oregon? Because if he says that, tell him about Oregon and get off the phone. He's telling you he's not interested in hearing anymore. And I'm telling you from my own personal experience, if they're not interested and you try to tell them about it, it's painful and awkward. It doesn't end well.
Okay. No, that helps a lot. Thank you for that. Very good.
Thank you for asking.
Very good answer. Thank you.
Lois, let's hear from you, my love. Give us an example, because you are a nonprofit. And if you want to unmute yourself, we can hear you and give you some pointers. Maybe she can't hear me. I don't know. Miss Jordan, can you hear me? You're muted out, love. You're muted. I'm trying to unmute you, but I can't do it on my end.
Can
There
you
you
hear,
are. Yes.
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Oh, I want to say that this has truly been an informative session for me. Of course, the young lady, Beverly, who invited me to attend this session, I greatly appreciate it. I know abundance of people. I'm here in Tennessee. I'm a member of many organizations, so I'm going to need a lot of mentoring, but I'm sure that I will bring a lot of interest and a lot of charitable real estate investments. This has been a truly informative section. In fact, it's taken me back to school. Of course, even though I received my license many years ago, I did receive a 40-year+ service from the Tennessee Real Estate Commission here in Tennessee. But let me tell you something. It's like starting all over again. And this,
Who's somebody that you could talk to about this, starting with what would your purpose be with that person? In other words, I know that you are a big time networker, you sit on boards for nonprofits, you're getting your real estate license put back into play. So there's a lot of different perspectives. Who's the first person that comes to mind for you that you could talk to about this?
the symphony of the opera board would be the first person perhaps that I talk to. I'm also a member of the Metropolitan Opera Board, which is in New York. But my head is going round and round and round.
Well, let me help you with that.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's talk about one at a time. Is there a specific person that you would talk to, or do you have the power and pull to just get in front of the board?
I can get in front of the board, but I have a Pacific person. Oh, I'm so glad I'm talking to you. That I would like to talk to about this. I do have a person. I think it's the marketing and development person is the person that I perhaps would bring this to their attention. Um,
So let me walk you through this, and let's take our time. And it's okay. Everyone's learning from this, including me. One of the things I learned as a mentor many years ago, I get way more out of all this than any of you do.
mhm.
Because when I'm talking it through, that's how I get good at saying it. Because a year ago, I could not say realty gift fund and charitable gifting of real estate in the same sentence. If any one of you try, it will be hilarious to say realty gift fund and charitable gifting. So the more I talk, the better it is for me. It's okay for us to walk through it. So tell me a little bit about this marketing person. First of all, your purpose. Do you want to talk to them because you're passionate about that cause? Do you want to talk to them because you're getting your real estate license and you want to be their charitable real estate person? Like, what's your purpose around it?
Well, I would want them to get involved with charitable real estate, and how they can make a contribution. So, to be candid with you, I'm going to have to brush up on a lot of things that I've heard today so that I can speak with them in an intelligent form.
Well, I'm going to help you with that right now, but it's one step at a time. So I get that you want them to know about it. And I also know that you don't really want to talk about something that you're not really
Informed
completely
about.
literate at.
Yes.
But why? Why do you want them to know about it? What is your purpose?
Why do I want them to know about it?
Yeah.
Because it makes sense for them to
So
be. It makes
what's in
sense.
it for you? Be honest with us, because I can't help you if you don't tell me what's in it for you.
What is in it for me? uh, knowing that I was able to make a contribution to their well-being, and in return, I will be rewarded for my efforts
How are you going to get rewarded?
of doing a good job and selling it.
Selling what?
The concept of charitable real estate.
Why do you want to sell them the concept? This is really important. I appreciate you playing. Why do you want to sell it to them?
Because it's something that has been involved a many, many years, and it's new to many people. They are totally unaware of how about charitable real estate. In fact, from listening, it's something that's been going on for many, many years. So
It's
it's
been going
new.
on. It's been going on for many years. It's new. They've never heard of it. That's a guarantee. What's in it for you? Are you just gonna become homeless and go around telling people about charitable real estate? Do you want to be the person who lists real estate for them? Do you want to be the person that 10 years from now they say, yeah, it was Dr. Jordan. She's the one told us about this. You want a pat on the back?
I'm going to be all of the above. I'm going to be all of the above. I'm going to be the one that introduced them to this process, and be the one that brought wealth to their organization, which is beneficial to them. And in the process, I'll be rewarded for awarding them.
I need you to tell me how you're going to get rewarded. I need you to tell me, are you going to get paid, or are you going to get rewarded by God because you're just a good person and you're going to get into heaven?
All of the above. Do I know how to answer that question? All of the above.
So what's in it for them? Are they struggling? Are their fundraisers being canceled? Are people not giving the donations they used to give? Do they need more exposure? Are people not going to the symphony anymore like they used to, and they actually need to promote themselves? What's in it for them? What's their purpose?
Well, this will be an opportunity also for more exposure. And because of what we're going through now, national with COVID, everybody is sort of settled in. And this is, in my opinion, an excellent idea to introduce them to something that they're not familiar with.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They don't care about learning something they're not familiar with. They care, what do they care about? Why do they exist?
Why do they exist? They exist for the purpose they're giving for their service. They're making their service aware to the public, and this is what they're. This is part of their entrepreneur. This is what they do, and so in meanwhile, in doing this, they are rewarding their organization as well as others.
Are they hurting for money?
Hurting for money? Will you tell me what non-charitable organization is not hurting for money? They need money.
Are they being boisterous about that? Are they telling you, hey, we need more donations? Are they honest about that?
Most of the time they are subtle or non-subtle. That's what it's all about. And so this would be a way for them to um, gain more, most definitely so.
Now, this marketing person, because there's two different conversations if you're going to talk to the marketing person, or if you're just going to say, hey, board members, we need to get together, because it's two different perspectives and two different purposes.
No,
If you're
I think the first person I would talk to the CEO. I know him for this particular organization, and those who don't know me know of me. Uh, so I would have a conference with them, and then
with
and
them
all
or him,
pardon.
do you want to talk to the CEO first or with the board?
I think I would probably talk to the CEO first. For this,
Okay.
yeah, I would talk to the CEO first, and then in all probability, the CEO would probably have me to talk to the
Okay.
development person.
First step at a time, because we were talking about the marketing person. Now we're talking about the CEO. Is it the same person?
No, the CEO is different from the marketing person, but you asked me directly the process that I would use.
This
And
is
now,
important. This is
yeah.
important because, this is not one big email going out to 1,000
No,
people.
no.
So if it's the CEO, tell me what that person's purpose is. Meaning, look, some people do what they do because they want the accolades. They want to be seen as the person who's saving the community. Other people do what they do because they want to be an inspiration to their children, right? Or maybe this guy created the organization because he as a child was like, was not acknowledged, and he wants to help other children be acknowledged. Like, what's his purpose?
Oh, what is his purpose?
Yeah.
He promotes the opera for 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 the community. He's the CEO, and then in all probability, if I can sell him, which I think I can, I hope I can.
No. Hold on. Don't go to if you can sell him. I want to hear about his purpose. So he promotes for the community the opera. Is it because he loves music? Is it because he wants acknowledgement? Is it because he wants to save the community? What's his purpose?
All of the above. All of the above. How about that? I know how to answer your questions, dear.
Well, no, you don't. You're kind of going around about it.
Okay.
If you had to pick one, if I say, give me one thing that this guy, this would really pull at his heartstrings, what is it?
Mm, they would want the community to know what they're doing, So I think that would be one of the things that they would do. They would be concerned with that. I really do. And then,
Do you think he's concerned that they need money
Oh,
for
yeah.
the community to know what they're doing. The reason I'm wanting to get really specific with you, and I appreciate you playing along with me, is because you've got one chance. You've got one chance to get his attention, or so here's the thing. If you want to be rewarded, you use the word rewarded at least 3 times. So whatever that means to you, if you want the reward of being the one who brings them this new thing so that they can share it in the community, then you've got to get his attention so that he's open to hearing what you're wanting to tell him. So if there's a heart-centered person and you go to them and say, hey, I learned how we can make money, they're going to shut down. But if there's someone who's really focused on they need funds, if they don't have funds, they can't help the community. It's funding. That's what's important. But you go to them singing Kumbaya, we're going to save the kids. They don't want to hear it. They want to hear about the money. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
So if we know what he wants, and let's just call it funds for now for time's sake, and you go to him and you say, what's his first name?
John.
What is it? John?
Mhm.
John, I was just on a Zoom today where I heard about a nonprofit just like yours that is getting checks, 6 figures, big checks. They are supporting their community like you've never heard of before. It's amazing. See, now when he says, well, how are they supporting their community? How are they getting these big checks? Tell me more. Well, this whole conversation we're having right now is just about getting your foot in the door. It's about getting his attention.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
about getting him to be more curious.
Okay.
Because if you walk in there and you say, hey, have you guys ever accepted real estate before? Because I know there's a lot of really bad stories out there, and I know some people have had bad drama with it, and I know this might sound too good to be true, but don't worry about it. There's this group, right? And they help you, and I don't know, there's some kind of third party, like he's not interested. It's confusing.
Yeah, I understand. You make it clear. You're great. You
And
make
I
it-
understand that none of us want to talk about something and get caught with our pants down.
That's
So
okay.
now he starts to ask you questions and you're like, I don't know. But I'm going to share with you that the best thing you can do for him is to say, I don't know. I just sat in on one class. Here's what I do know. The team that's doing this does it for Fidelity Charitables. And they're the largest nonprofit in the country. That's good enough for me. Let's get on the phone.
Okay. Great. Oh, you're
Now look, I want to teach you guys everything you want to know. I'll help you remember every statistic you need to remember. But that's going to take, it took me a year to be able to speak this intelligently about it. And the only reason that I can is because I did what I'm telling you to do, and I got them on the phone with Bruce.
Oh, great.
And I listened, and I did a Zoom, and I did a call, and so in other words, I did a lot of what I'm sharing with you guys to do while we were putting the class together. And now I can speak intelligently about it. But I can tell you one thing, if you try to explain something that you don't understand, you're going to confuse a bunch of people. You're not going to get rewarded. They're not going to serve the community. Their fundraisers are canceled. They're struggling.
Yes.
And you're going to start trying to sell them. Yeah, but let me explain it again. And they're going to be like, is she coming to this meeting again?
I understand. I understand. Thank you
Good.
so much. Thank you.
Okay, guys, it is almost 4 o'clock, and I have a call with Bruce in 5 minutes with a big real estate company. So here's what I'll leave you with for now. If you were a guest here, thank you for coming. You learned a lot. You have a couple of choices. You can go out and do whatever you want with it. God bless you. You're visionary. You're open-minded enough to show up. We love you. We'll support you however we can. If you want to keep coming to these classes, the third Tuesday of the month, moving forward, third Tuesday of the month, every month. It's $200 to do the certification class, which is what you just did. And even if you don't want to get certified, if you make that investment, then you can keep coming and keep coming and come to as many classes as you want and keep learning. And you can bring 2 guests every time you come every month. And on Wednesdays, the first, second, and third Wednesday of the month, which is tomorrow, is Bruce's Realty Gift Fund. They do a Q&A on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. So now you say, hey, you know, there's this property, there's this title, there's this person, this thing. You can ask them any kind of questions you want about the transactions. That's the certification class. And you're grandfathered in to come to as many classes and bring 2 guests forevermore, because we keep adding and changing and increasing things, but when you come in, you're grandfathered in at that place. If you can see a benefit and how I can help with strategy and wording and language and all that kind of stuff, we have the membership. Now, come summertime, the membership's going to be $297 a month. We're not there yet. Right now, for $997, you're a member of the membership for life, and it includes the $200. So $997, you're part of the group program for life. And come June, July, when it goes to $297 a month, no worries, you're grandfathered in. What the group is about is between every time we do a certification class, we're doing a 30-day challenge. Probably going to make it more of a 21-day challenge now that I've shortened the time between classes. But the challenge is me every day on Facebook Live in the private group talking about what we're talking about now. The mindset, the 7 Ps, forwards and backwards. How are you promoting? How do you get partners? How are you positioning yourself? What is their purpose? In other words, I'm helping you to leverage and implement. Thursday nights, the first, second, and third Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern, you come together with us in the group to do this kind of strategy, what we're doing right now. That's the membership for the $997 for a lifetime membership. And there are some people who hire me to do cause marketing campaigns where we spend 4 or 5 months together really doing something specific for you. So there's Minnesota Mission Possible with Lori. There's 100 Days, 100 Heroes with Ren. There's Tisha Perry, who just joined us, who we're doing Connecting Hearts. In other words, I would need to know, who do you want to do business with? What are you passionate about? And we create a campaign that gets you seen and heard as the charitable real estate specialist in your community, meeting hundreds and thousands of your people, getting interviewed, getting on media, doing press releases, all that kind of stuff. That's a custom campaign that we have to talk about because everybody's different. But for right now, just know, if you want to be in the certification class, it's $200. If you want to be in the group, it's $997 and includes it. And there's a link, cammiebaker.com/certification, that explains both of those. And I've got everybody's email address that was on the call. I'll be sending out to you an email with everything that I just lined out. I'll do that later on today. I see you asking questions, but I got to bounce. I got to go get on that Zoom with Bruce. You've all got my number. I'm going to put it in again real quick. And then I got to go, and I'm happy to have a private conversation with anyone who has questions. So it's Cammie at cammiebaker.com. And my number is 603-785-2598. And I'm saving the chat right now, and I'll send you all a copy of the chat. I have to go. Thank you for your time today. It is the most valuable commodity we have. I do not take it for granted. And I guarantee anything that you do with me, I'm always going to make you think different, consider a new way of leveraging, and have a different language pattern that will help you get the results you need. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.